Hey guys, I'm Jax and I just saw the new Netflix TV series, Three Body Problem. This Netflix sci-fi mystery thriller TV series is based off a book of the same name, and it is adapted by potentially the most controversial adapteurs of all time, D&D. Yes, that's right, the creators of Game of Thrones, D&D, are back out of Hollywood jail with a new TV series based off a book that is finished. I think that's very key to understanding why Netflix allowed them to make this. I wonder if they pitched a bunch of different book series and Netflix just went, is it done? And they're like, well, it's gonna be done. Punch them in the face and they threw them in the gutter and they're like, no, D&D monsters. But then they brought a book series and they're like, it's done. I went into this show wanting to hate it so much. I went in ready to loathe this show. I was like, I'll watch one episode and I will hate it. Even if it's kind of fun and good, I am going to come into this review hot, crazy, like a madman out for blood. At a certain point, I was like, I don't even know if I'll watch the show. Just when the show comes out, I'll like have a review saying Three Body Problem review. But like I'll just do a review about Game of Thrones season 7 and 8 and I'll just do a big old rant. But then I was like, I can't be bothered doing that. It's like, it makes me sad. It's like, it's not fun to yell about it because it's so old now and it still hurts so much. It just makes me sad. It hurts and it makes me sad. It's not fun anymore. So I was like, I'm not going to do that. And I only realized that when the show came out where I'm like, I can't do it. I wanted to do it for so long and I thought this was the perfect reason and excuse to do it. Not doing it. I'll watch the show and it'll suck because these guys suck. So I'll do it and I'll watch the show. And let me tell you. And this, it doesn't bring me any joy. This brings me no joy to say this. But Three Body Problem has one big problem. I didn't hate it. I didn't. It hurts to say, I didn't hate it. I kind of liked this. I kind of thought this was pretty interesting and thought-provoking and kind of wild and insane. And I went to watch one episode to do the review just to have an excuse to just like yell at D&D because I hate them so very much for ruining my favorite thing that's ever existed. But in hindsight, maybe I owe them something because I was so obsessed. It was like dangerous obsessed. Like I didn't watch it. I didn't love it. I was obsessed. Like I loved Game of Thrones so very much. And now I hate it. It's like thinking about like, you know, your ex-wife where you're like, ugh. 5% of me still wants to have sex with her, but most of me wants to kill her. And you kind of look back on regret and disgust and kind of curious fascination where you're like, how did I feel how I felt back then? Because now in hindsight, I just can't even. But there's that still 5% where you're like, there were some pretty good times, wasn't there? But then you're like, no. Just remember the bad times. Stop thinking positively with nostalgia lens glasses. It was toxic and evil, and they sucked. Or maybe did you suck? Anyway, I am divulging too much about my personal life. What I'm trying to say is, nobody wanted to hate this show more than me. I might be the most bitter, petty man that's ever existed on the internet. No, that is absolutely not true. I mean, I might be like in the top 10,000, but I wouldn't scratch the... Oh, yeah. God, the internet. Ugh. What I'm trying to say is I didn't want to watch this show. I didn't want to like this show. I just watched it because I was like, gotta give it a go, I guess, so there's something vague to talk about maybe after the end. Like a post-credit scene from my review where I go, oh, actually, I watched a bit of it and blah, blah, blah. And then I finished the first episode and I was like... Oh dear. Color me intrigued. Oh no, it's got me! And then 7 hours later, I finished the show. I finished the whole season in one go. I binged all 8 episodes in one sitting, despite the fact I had to wake up at 5 a.m. the next day for work. I went to bed at about 1 a.m. Let me tell you. This morning at work... It was rough, but was it worth it? Kind of, I guess, not really. I mean, it's all, now it's past. It's like, yeah, it was worth it. I saw the whole show, it was sick. I don't know, it's just such a wild premise. And honestly, I feel like D&D really had nothing to do with making any of this good. Did they cast the cast? Not really. Were they on set directing the actors? Probably not. Like, they wrote the script, so they grabbed the book and they made it the script. I don't know. It's just one of those things where I'm like, who knows how much they had to do with this? Maybe they are perfect adapteurs of a good book and making it a thing. I did love Game of Thrones very, very much. First 4 seasons perfect. 5 and 6, hit or miss, but more hit than miss probably. 7 and 8. But the thing that really, really did work for me in this series, apart from Ramin Djawadi, Game of Thrones music guys, music, the acting, which was spectacular, the cast, all cast really, really well. We've got a bunch of Game of Thrones people, mostly Samuel Tarly and Davos. But the thing that really worked for me was just the unpredictable nature of the plot, and the fact that from the first episode you're kind of like, okay, we're doing some weird sci-fi premises, scientists are dying, it's a bit of a murder mystery situation, Benedict Wong's here and he's all like, I'm a detective, or am I more? And there's like something weird sci-fi high concept premise going on, but you just don't know. But then by the end of episode 3 I'm like, this is entirely different. This is all about some kind of VR game that's 100 years in the future in terms of the technology. Like, how did they make this? Who made this? What is going on in this video game? Is there more about this VR video game going on? And then by the end of episode 4 and 5, you're like, forget the game! We're doing this now! And it just keeps focusing on characters and then throwing them to the side, but not in a way where you're like, oh, it's so muddled and disjointed and random and it doesn't know what it's trying to do. It's like, it is just so expansive and grand and big and exciting, where it's like, there is maybe 5 characters that start off the show and they do continue to be our main 5, but there are people that have come in and come out and it just keeps growing and growing and expanding and growing and expanding. By the start or maybe the end of episode 6, there is just this moment where you're like, I never could have predicted this is where we would be. And then in episode 8, it's like, remember that guy who's been the kind of the friend of the thing doing the thing? Now he's the main character doing this thing and this thing and this thing. And it's just bonkers. It's crazy. It's wild. It's inventive. It's unique. It's different. It is big, crazy, interesting sci-fi premises. I think the first few episodes kind of start off with very kind of relatable, maybe potentially accurate science stuff. Like, I'm not a scientist. Obviously, I'm maybe the least scientist man that's ever not done science. I don't know anything. I'm an idiot. But it feels like the first half of the series starts off very kind of like certain scientists are saying and doing things where I'm like, that feels very grounded. And then by the end, we are talking nonsense, insane, Doctor Who, Star Trek kind of big high concept sci-fi premises that probably can't happen even, you know, it's a show, but like, it still feels like it's kind of stretching your imagination a little bit, a bit of like a poetic license in that sci-fi premisey way, but I think it's more about like the characters and the emotional feelings of those characters and how they interact and react to these incredibly big sci-fi concepts and these wild, inventive, unique things. Like, there are just so many things in the back half where it's like, all right, so to solve this problem, we can do this. Oh, that doesn't work. What if we did this? And the third answer is like so crazy and insane, but so thought-provoking and fascinating and interesting. And that's what I really loved about the show. Just these big, high-concept sci-fi premises that are just bonkers. Inventive, insane, really, really fun in a dour, horrible kind of way. Like, it's kind of like, oh, this universe is crazy and insane. Imagine living in this world where this thing happened and then that led to this thing happening. But it's always contained with these like 5 main friend scientist people. This show just does a lot of really cool, fun, interesting things, and I actually loved it. I really, really had a lot of fun with this show. I don't know if it's good enough for like an adaptation from the book. Maybe it changes a bunch of stuff. But of all the stuff it does in this show, I thought it was surprisingly interesting. And it just felt so unique and different. Like, once the main plot kind of kicks off in episode 4 and 5 and you go, oh, this is what the whole series will properly be about, there's a interesting wrinkle to that. Because once you realize what it is, there is a sense for a second of like, oh, it's just this. But it's not just that. It's that with this interesting wrinkle of like how long this thing is going to take and how long this thing is going to be a presence in everyone's lives. And I think that, like the time angle, the unique longevity time angle, I found very fascinating, very interesting. It's a good show. Trust me. No one wanted to dislike this more than me, but here I am. But I binged the whole show in one night. Does that speak to the quality of the show, or does that speak to my own lack of social life? both?